Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for joining us. Well, almost 1,600,000 students in the public schools. What about good teaching? But first, the economy is still shaking. What about your personal finances? Back after these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Well, inflation is still high. If you try to find some goods in the grocery stores, lots of luck there with empty shelves. That's called the supply chain. We're going to talk about your personal finances and what you can do to protect yourself when we get in, not just into these situations, but for the most part, day in and day out. Joining me to do that is Kristen Heisey. She's the CEO of the Everence Federal Credit Union, and Mike Wishnow. He's the Senior Vice President with the CrossState Credit Union Association. All right, Michael, I'm going to start with you. You have a series of resolutions for 2023 that relate to personal finances. What are they?
Yeah, again, as we look to a new year, we're turning a new page. And there are some things that folks can do to put their finances in a better place. First is develop a written monthly budget.
Yeah.
Second is, if you don't already have a relationship with a financial institution, find a financial institution that you can trust, a bank or a credit union.
Yeah.
Third, look at your personal debt. How can you pay that down? How can you put yourself into a better place? And then fourth, develop a plan to save and invest, particularly retirement. And then finally, we talk about this a lot on this show, you can't underestimate the value of teaching our children good habits at a young age.
No, you're exactly right. And these are great ideas, and obviously they're designed to make sure that individuals don't get into these personal finance crises. I'll call them a crisis. All right, Kristen, let's talk about one of them. We're not going to have time to get into all of them, but a written monthly and annual budget.
Absolutely. So we know that a lot of Americans are spending beyond their means. Half of us are living paycheck to paycheck, and as you mentioned, inflation is a real challenge right now, and so even more people are feeling the pinch. So setting a budget is probably one of the best things anyone can do.
Well, no, I was going to say, you have some great numbers here. 40% of Americans say that they live beyond their means. Half of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck.
Absolutely. So we need to be proactive and actually begin to set a budget. So one of the best things you can do is put it on paper, go to a spreadsheet, or there's a lot of great apps out there to actually start to develop a budget for next year.
Yeah. I would take it that people, Michael, we all spend money, we don't realize we're spending it until we end up with a financial problem.
Right, and one of the things about writing it down, whether it's using an app, as Kristen said, or just using an old spreadsheet or even a piece of lined paper, is you can look and see if your spending aligns with your personal priorities.
Yeah.
If you're spending a ton of money on Starbucks and you're not being able to purchase some clothing that you'd like, you can readjust that pretty easily, but you have to see it to know.
And Kristen, that involves what you call, and I love this wording, fun money, right? And that
That's
could
right.
involve almost anything, right?
Yes. It's important to budget for fun money. All of us like to go out, enjoy ourselves, and you need to budget for that. The other tip I have is it's really important to budget for emergencies.
Yeah, good point.
They're going to happen. Your car's going to break down. The hot water heater is going to go. Do you have a little money set aside for those emergencies? Otherwise, you got to pull out that credit card to try to cover. So try to budget for that.
And then you're in the catch-up mode where you're trying to figure out your debt. If you can not incur debt when you have one of those surprises, as Kristen said, that puts you in a better place financially for all the other priorities that you have.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I wonder how many people actually do a written monthly budget and have an annual budget. I'll bet you it's a relatively small percentage, would you say?
My guess is it's pretty small.
Yeah.
But, doing a budget allows you to see where your money's actually going. Especially today, it's surprising. If you go out to lunch every day, how much that adds up over a month's time frame.
All right,
So
Michael made a big point about developing a relationship with a financial institution. We'll get to that.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
All right, Michael, you have regularly, when this topic comes up, you make the point that you must establish a relationship with a financial institution.
Yeah, it really is critical because many financial institutions, most financial institutions, certainly most credit unions, have low-cost products that can help you so you can avoid fees and that kind of thing. There are a lot of people out there that are using check cashers, pawnbrokers, payday lenders. Those are all really expensive ways to manage your money. And if you walk into a credit union like Kristen's, they can sit down with you and counsel you one-on-one and get you on the right path and get you into products and services that best meet your needs, right?
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, much lower fees, so your money's going a lot further. A lot of times people get into a situation where their car breaks down and now they can't go to work. So they need a gap to get them through. And there are small loans, micro loans that a lot of credit unions or banks can help people to get by, to get them back to work.
Now, when they come in to see you, you run a credit union. Are they in all kinds of demographics? I mean, age-wise and income-wise? I'd imagine it's just not people who have low incomes who fall into that spend category, right?
Absolutely. People, we have young kids to older adults, and everybody has challenges, and the credit union or banks are there to really help walk people through. One of the big challenges is helping people improve their credit score so that they do have access to better credit. And we can help them figure out how to improve their credit score.
Yeah, to borrow from institutions that don't have exorbitant payoffs at the end, interest, I'll put it that way.
Absolutely. We also have been working with people new to the United States, and so they have no credit history. So teaching them how to build credit and work with them to get a secure credit card so they can start building that credit so they have an opportunity to one day buy a house or buy a car.
Well, coming up, we're going to talk a good bit about education and teaching, but obviously teaching about finances to your kids, to your children, is very important.
Yeah, and it really has to start at an early age. I mean, kindergarten teachers read books to their kids. There's no reason they can't use the Berenstain Bears, The Trouble with Money. It's a reading, it's a book, it's a lesson, it's an English, but it also has some financial stuff in it. It doesn't have to be another thing to teach. You can teach it around what you're already teaching. The whole notion of wants versus needs. Young kids can get that. And then every stage, as they get older, they need different financial knowledge. And I know you guys do a lot with the kids in your community, right?
We do. We actually have a youth savings week once a year where we have all kinds of additional activities, and we actually put money into youth accounts to encourage them to continue to save. That's really one of the best things parents can do, is to actually open up a savings account for their child and teach them to start saving.
No, that's a good plan, but the bottom line here is develop a plan to save and invest. That's the point.
Absolutely. And again, at an early age. A lot of it is financial habits. You asked Terry about different people, different walks of life. It's funny. It's not just people that are earning little money that have financial problems. There are people that earn a good deal of money that have financial problems simply because they don't manage it properly. So you have to make sure you're using your debt wisely, make sure you save and invest, make sure you put away the little extra money, as Kristen said, for an emergency account, those kinds of things.
All right, that's a wonderful segue to good teaching matters, why that's important, and we'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by CrossState Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Well, welcome back to the program. Well, we couldn't have two better guests to talk about excellence in teaching than Rich Askey. He's the president of the Pennsylvania State Education Association, and Kevin Gallagher. He's a teacher at Keystone Oaks High School. He's also the Horace Mann Awardee for Teaching Excellence winner. That's a long title, but congratulations. We'll
Thanks,
get to
Terry.
what that actually means. But I want to start with you, Kevin. Teachers have a profound influence on their students, and that carries well beyond the period of time when they're actually in the classroom. Talk about what excellence means. Excellence in teaching. What do you do? Obviously, you won a prestigious award, so you're doing something right, correct? Go ahead.
I hope so.
Yeah, I know so.
So I think while the students are in the school, I think student engagement, getting them to buy into what you're doing, and then to give them tools and give them opportunities and tools to take with them when they leave high school, and pursue their their life's work.
Yeah, Rich, you taught for many years. Give me a sense about what do you think it takes?
Well, I think what happens is that we are making a difference in the future. That saying, we touch the future, is true. And we're creating the future doctors, the lawyers, the future educators, future legislators. All those professions come from the profession of teaching. And that's why our educators like Kevin is so important to our kids.
Yeah. Now, you make a point also that it's just not what goes on in the classroom itself. As important as that is, it's also, involves many other sectors of our society.
Yeah, I think getting families involved too, I think is important. I think recently we had a coding night, a programming night at school. We had 85 families come and kind of do school together, and I think that was very valuable. I think the parents appreciated that. I think the students appreciated that, and that allows the parents to see what the students are doing in schools and how valuable it is, and that it's going to be useful tools for them as they grow up.
I think we have to remember that the first teachers of our students are the parents. And so it's very important when they come to our schools that we partner with them, we make them feel welcome, and we share in the building up and empowering of their children.
Yeah. It's not always easy to get people in the community actually involved. What's the secret to that success?
I think that, parents want their students to be successul, and I think, the switch that I made to computer science, I think that the students can really buy into that. It's not, when am I ever going to use this? They see computer science every day, right? So that their technology, there's always on a device here or there. So they see the value in that, and they want to build on that, the skills.
10-year-old grandson knows more about the iPhone and the laptop than I do.
Yeah, but I also think it's a responsibility of our schools to create opportunities for parents to come in. Sometimes the parents, they have their own responsibilities, their own work, so we have to make sure that in those late afternoons, evenings, that there's events like Kevin just spoke of, and we reach out and say, come in, we want you to be part of this community.
That's important. I'll tell you what, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about, professional development for teachers, which both of you know quite well, and see what kind of impact that has. But first of all, I have to find out a little something about the Horace Mann Award and what that means, and we'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
All right, Rich, the Horace Mann Award, what is it?
Well, it's an award that is presented by the National Education Association Foundation, and it's done in partnership with the Horace Mann Educators Foundation. And I think everybody remembers Horace Mann as being the father of public education. And it looks at all the educators across the state, across the country, and each state nominates someone for the award. And it looks for excellence in teaching, how well that you lift up the profession, working with your colleagues, and just looking for diversity and equity in the classroom. Those are the three main tenets of this award, and that's why we're so proud of Kevin, because he fits the bill perfectly.
Are there 5 each year that get the award? Or?
There are 5. There are actually 5 finalists that get the award, and then in the award program, there is someone who gets recognized as the top award, and we're pretty hopeful for Kevin.
There you go. All right, so you get named. Did your head blow up? I mean, did you get...
Rich actually called me on the phone, and I thought he wanted me to endorse a candidate or something. I'm like, and he's like, you won. I'm like, I won. I was like, what did I win? Because the process is a little bit long. So then it hit me that I was a Horace Mann Award winner. So that was pretty extraordinary. Very proud, obviously. For myself, for my school district, for PSEA. All of that to be able to represent those organizations, my family. I think that is an extraordinary accomplishment.
Teaching excellence,
Correct. Yes.
And what does that mean to you?
I think it just means that the work that I've done, in and out of my classroom, that it is valued by more than me and my students and their families. I think that that's important. That kind of validates what I do. The work that I've done, the opportunities that I've given students, and I'll continue to give students throughout my career.
I think it's important to note too that the reason we nominated the process we used to nominate Kevin was a panel of his peers. And so it was other educators that looked at the people we were looking at and decided that Kevin was standing out in that area.
Yeah. And that, I think, even ratchets up the importance because not in every situation is it always collegial. I think you would agree there. So that's wonderful. So what did it mean to you?
I think that, when I made the switch to computer science, it gave me the opportunity to provide students more opportunities. That students were not in my world of computer science. The students are not tracked into honors or different levels of. Everybody has the opportunity to take high-level courses that are not only going to be useful to get their high school degree, but they're going to be useful skills to use when they leave high school.
Now you have a variety of roles that you play as a teacher. What's the most rewarding to you?
I think that being there for students when they need you the most, whether that's, getting into college or a personal issue. I recently spoke to a former former student who said their father had passed away when they were younger, and I was their teacher and their football coach, and I was like a father figure to them. So that was not anymore. So I had like 3 segments to my professional career. So, but I was a coach for a long time. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I'm back to this issue of getting the community. Do you get people from the community to come in and talk to the students? Do you take the students out to the community, or a little of both?
A little of both. So recently, I mean, whenever I have the opportunity, I have former students that contact me, and they want to, they know that the work we're doing is rewarding and make students successful. They want to come back and tell their story to the students. And I think when students see former Keystone Oaks graduates come back that are doing well, they can really get their hands on that, and they want to, like, what did they do for a living? I want to do that kind of thing. So
I mean, go back to you, Rich. I mean, it had to be really difficult trying to pick an award winner. I mean, there are a lot of excellent teachers out there. Is there anything more difficult than trying to pick one person or a couple of people out of thousands of school teachers in the state of Pennsylvania?
I always say we have thousands of stars across the state of Pennsylvania in our classrooms. And yes, it is when you have to willow it down to just one person. And you recently interviewed our Educational Support Professional of the Year. For whoever is working in our public schools, they're doing so incredible work for our children that it is hard to willow it down. But fortunately, I didn't have to. This panel of his colleagues were the ones that took the heavy load, and now I'm just out here supporting them.
Yeah. Well, what professional development did you do over the course of your career? Obviously, that's critically important in terms of how you interact with students, how you teach, how you even interacting with colleagues.
About 10 years ago, PSEA pushed out a scholarship to become nationally board certified. And the national board certification has a lot of equity. Equity is important in the classroom kind of thing. And I really liked that. And I thought that, I could pursue that certification. And I did that. And that was very rewarding. You record yourself teaching in the classroom. It's very, very self-reflecting kind of things to make yourself a better teacher. Yeah. And I think once I got that and I continued that work over a 10-year period, I'm currently I've got into the world of computer science. I was a traditional math teacher for 20 years, and then all of a sudden
you had no choice, right?
I was teaching computer science, right? And statistics. So from there, that really opened the door. And I saw this world of data science and computer science, and I'm pursuing another degree at my.
I'll tell you, Rich, when you think about education in the state and this massive number, 500 school districts. I mean, that alone is stupendous. I mean, when you think about running education in the state of Pennsylvania, what kind of a task that has, how difficult that has to be.
Well, yeah, it absolutely is. But I think one of the good things about that, when I look at it, is that with 500 school districts, you keep it local. You make sure that the community, that helps keep the community involved. So I think that's one of the advantages to having your small school districts.
Yeah. I mean, that's a critical point. And you do interact with parents, right?
Yeah, and I grew up in the community, so I teach at my alma mater.
Your alma mater?
Yes, I grew up I grew up in Castle Shannon. It's Castle Shannon, Dormont, and Greentree. Yeah. So I've had family members live in all 3 communities. So and I think the students buy into that as well.
Thank you. Very interesting subject matter. Thanks. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, you stay well.